Now, these Reddit stories are meant to be true. Whether you believe them or not is entirely up to you. Thank you very much for choosing my video to chill to. Relax, my friends, settle down and enjoy.
I'm not sure if I should be writing this so close to the witching hour, so close to my kids or even in my own home. But at the same time, it's been on my mind so much it's like I have to. It's a long read, so I'm so sorry because the story has a prologue. When I was 10 years old, I had a very vivid dream. In my dream, I had woken up because the ground under me was shaking. I opened my eyes and I realized I wasn't in my bed whatsoever. I was in a moving vehicle. There was screaming, but it wasn't coming from me. Confused, I looked around but couldn't move my head. Something was around my neck. Suddenly an arm shot above me. A blue sleeve. A male voice asking me something I couldn't understand. Then I heard it. "Can you hear me? What's your name?" I woke up to the sound of my alarm. Time for the first day of school. In my excitement, I shrugged off the dream and forgot about it completely by the time I was on the bus. A few weeks later, after my 11th birthday, I had stayed home from school because I was so sick. I had started my very first period and was just so woozy. My mom came home from work to find me on the couch watching Arthur, and she said something along the lines of, "I have to go into the next town over. Come with me." A weird sinking feeling in my gut told me it wouldn't end well. But then she said, "We'll grab McDonald's." So off I went in my jammies to find my shoes. Within the next 15 minutes we were on the way heading north into town. We saw the cars racing on the other side, weaving in between cars, going south. Coming towards us. I remember them quite well. A yellow Camaro. A red Mustang GT. The idiots decided to turn quickly at the intersection when our light was still green. My mom stepped on the brake, but it was too late. Everything went black. I opened my eyes to feel the earth under me rattling, to hear the screams I had heard only a few weeks ago. I saw the arm shoot over my head, blue sleeve, reaching for an IV bag. I heard the, "Hey, can you hear me? What's your name?" It hit me all at once. I was in an ambulance. I spent the next 8 weeks in recovery at the hospital. Since then, I've never been the same. The summer I was going to turn 14, we did our annual trip to Mexico. My brother would stay behind because he had football and marching band practice to attend all summer. So Mother and I went alone. The main house on my grandparents' ranch was huge. 7 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 living rooms, a huge kitchen and dining area, the washroom, and then a guest house towards the back of it. The first 2 bedrooms were on either side of the foyer as soon as you enter the house. I usually stayed in the left room with the 2 beds with my brother, but since he stayed behind, I stayed in the right one. My mom would be staying in my grandparents' room and my grandpa would be in the guest house. My unmarried uncle stayed in the room by the second living room beside the kitchen. The weeks went by normally. I would hang out with my cousins, riding horses along the trails, helping on the farm, and after they'd come over to the main house and we'd laugh and help cook and make the meals for my grandpa and uncles. Every night was like a family feast. "Can you spend the night again?" I asked my cousins. "No, we have to go to mass in the morning." I frowned at their answer. "But maybe you can spend the night and we'll drop you off on our way to church," they suggested. I asked my mom. She said no. And my rebellious self went into, "They always spend the night and I never get to. It's unfair. They live right down the road." I had screamed at her. In front of the whole family. I didn't care. I marched to my bedroom, slammed the door closed, and laid on the bed. Between being exhausted from working on the farm, the heat of the summer, and the only air coming in through the window, I watched the breeze blow through, slightly moving the curtain back and forth, swaying softly side to side. I awoke to the sound of my door opening the closing. The sound of cowboy boots walking on the tile flooring, spurs softly jingling. I heard the sound of the springs of the bed and felt it sink under the weight of someone. Then it was dead silence. No chirping of crickets. No farm noises. Through the light of the moon entering the room, I saw the silhouette of a man sitting there, on the edge of my bed, elbows on his knees. He wore a cowboy hat and a trench coat. How odd. A trench coat in the middle of July? Well, it was unnecessarily cool right now. In fact, it was cold. Thinking it was one of my uncles coming in to talk to me about the argument I had with my mother, I sat up on my elbows. "Hey Tio," I said, greeting my uncle. "Que paso? What's up?" That's when the smell really hit me. It wasn't the smell of the farm. It was something else entirely. A dead animal, maybe. The bed squeaked under his weight as he leaned closer to me slowly, and that's when I really saw him. Not any of my uncles but someone else. Someone. Dead. Decaying. Lips stuck to his rotten teeth. "Agua," he whispered, his hot, putrid breath over my face. I screamed, loud. Louder than I have ever screamed in my entire life. I sprang out of bed, turned on the light switch and ran as fast as my legs could carry me to my grandma's room. My mom there with her. "What's wrong?" they asked as I jumped in bed between them, grabbing the blankets, begging them to hold me. "Just hold me." They did. It was just a bad dream. I sobbed. About 11 years later, at my cousin's bonfire, my cousins and I were sitting around it, telling ghost stories. And I told them this one. My cousin Ray stared at me the entire time. Eyes wide. While we were putting everything up, he came up to me. "Do you remember when I disappeared?" he asked. "Yeah, you ended up at the ranch." I replied. "Yeah, I went to detox," he explained. Proud of him quitting drugs and going to find solace the only place he knew where, he had come back rehabilitated. Well, I saw him. In the same room. But I thought I had been withdrawing. You know, you hallucinate sometimes. But this hallucination wasn't like the rest of them. Because I smelled him too. He said with a look on his face that told me I hadn't been dreaming any of it. I got a temp job with Google driving one of those vehicles with a mounted 360 camera system. It was a fun job. I was tasked with recording highways, streets, and sometimes off-beaten paths in the middle of nowhere. I was assigned a company vehicle and I worked as a one-man unit. They paid for gas, hotel, and I got per diem for food. Pay was about $7,000 per month, before taxes. 1099 employee with no benefits though. My car was my office and I would work 5 10-hour days weekly. I wouldn't have any human interaction for days and it was a lonely job, but I enjoyed all the sightseeing adventures. The job was easy, but it required a lot of multitasking. You had a computer inside your car, had to navigate the road, and manipulated the camera system mounted on the roof. The job brought me to a small town somewhere north of Marysville, CA. It was a quiet town and had a nice countryside vibe to it. I was finishing up my shift before my weekend and I decided to take a shortcut by driving down the dirt road which I thought connected to the highway. I really regretted doing that. It was 5 p.m. in the evening in the middle of July, so the sun was still out. Due to the heavy foliage and overgrown trees, the path I drove was really dark and creepy. The forest made for a scene out of a horror movie. I put my headlights on just so I had better vision. As I was making a sharp turn on this downhill slope, I observed my headlights reflecting on a yellow dead-end sign. Luckily, there was plenty of room for me to do a U-turn safely. This part of the dirt road was the darkest part of the forest, with only small patches of sunlight penetrating through the canopy from the overgrown trees above. Once my car repositioned to exit the area, I looked in my rear view mirror and I noticed someone standing behind the dead-end sign. It looked like a kid, maybe 13 years of age. He had one of those bowl-cut haircuts and wore dark-colored raggedy clothing. His face was pale and he had that 1,000-yard stare. I could feel his gaze locked towards my direction. He had no facial expression, did not blink, and stood frozen in place. I felt I should check on his welfare and ask if he was okay. I rolled down my window and reversed my car closer to where the kid was standing. Once I saw the brake lights reflect off the yellow dead-end sign, I parked my car. I was expecting for him to come to my driver's side window, but the kid never came. I looked into my rear view mirror and he was gone. I didn't even hear any footsteps or the sound of twigs snapping. If the kid left, he must have been a trained ninja. The forest was eerily silent. The only sound that stood out was the engine from my car. I drove away slowly and egressed up the hill. As I came within 100 yards eyesight of the main road, I saw the same looking kid walking about 50 yards in front of me. It's possible it could have been someone else, but the dark-colored shirt, ragged jeans, and physical stature resembled the kid from earlier. His back was exposed to me. I couldn't make out his hairstyle or skin complexion from that distance. He walked away from the forest onto the main road and walked eastbound. I waited until he was out of sight before I exited the forest and drove the opposite direction. I was so frightened I didn't even bother to check the rear view mirror. I red-lined the hella out of the car and booked it for dear life. Our cameras worked via lidar system and automatically recorded 360 panoramic photographs while the car was in motion. At the time of the encounter my camera was recording, therefore I suspected the kid was likely captured in one of the images. I reviewed the photos from where I made the U-turn at the dead-end sign. Nothing. No kid, no shadow, not even a silhouette of a person of any form. The only photo captured was the yellow dead-end sign, the overgrown trees in the background, and dust particles from me driving on the dirt road. I reviewed the same recording from the second sighting of the kid, upon our exit. Nothing. I had zero evidence of any persons being captured in any of my recordings. Don't know if it was due to the lack of sleep, being dehydrated, or my eyes playing tricks with me. But I'm pretty sure I saw a ghost. Thank you for the great support, I really do appreciate it. If you are enjoying what I'm doing, why not think about subscribing to my channel? It is free and would help me a great deal. We've all heard that children and animals can see things that we can't. They're more sensitive to the paranormal, supernatural side of things. I didn't really believe this at first. Until my own kids were born. They've all had their own experiences, but this one is about my youngest daughter. I will call her Bella. My father-in-law was one of those people who begged for grandchildren. Every family get-together it was always, when are you all going to give me grandbabies? Well, it happened and he was a phenomenal grandfather. He was never too tired to play, no mess was too big, and he never said, no. But life happened and sadly he passed from a heart attack. My girls were 2 years old and Bella was just 8 months old. It shattered us. Even me, because he'd been in my life since I was 14. He was a second dad to me. It hit my 2-year-old pretty hard, but Bella, I thought, was too young to understand, obviously. Fast forward to Bella being a little over a year old. Every time I'd hold her she'd look off into corners, walls where nothing was, and smile, wave, etc. I just thought she was being a baby doing weird things. But then she learned to talk. This is where it gets eerie. I'd hear her talking to herself when her sister would be nowhere around. I listened one day and heard, "I know you miss Rowdy Papa. But Nana is taking care of him." Rowdy was his pet Shih Tzu. I walked in to ask her who she was talking to. She replied, "Papa Troy. He misses Rowdy. Oh, and he said tell Nana happy and Veer sorry." I knew she was trying to say anniversary, because their anniversary was the next day. My mouth dropped. She didn't know that. She was too little. Over the years Bella would talk about him working in the coal mines, the machines he worked on, his friends and their families. Things she was not told about. Then another big incident where we all were freaked out. He wore a set of dog tags that he never took off. When my mother-in-law boxed up all his stuff, she misplaced them. She was so distraught over it. She babysat my girls one day and called me crying. Bella found his tags. I was confused. She explained that she was walking my girls around outside and her wedding rings on her finger started to feel like it was burning or tingling. She ignored this, but Bella said, "Papa is trying to tell you his tags fell into the vent in your bedroom." She went inside to look and there they were. Bella is 6 now and barely remembers these things. But I think it's safe to say that she could see her papa.
Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed the video, why don't think about giving me a little subscribe on YouTube? I would appreciate that very much. Until next time, I will see you later.